concepts which a normal reader of a magazine or newspaper or TV period doesn't know. That it makes it difficult to follow. Instead, astronomer can just tell about stars and comets and some rocks and some stuff like that, dust, and it's just so easy. And of course you can also use this, you can also discuss with the teachers and with the audience and in articles about these moralistic points which are the frightening thing of knowing too much about life. Because that is one very interesting thing. People are afraid, they even think that it's a sin to know too much about life. So there are a lot of these things like discussion about this planetary protection, natural parks, different planets which came here in the planetary. But those are very interesting things, and if scientists participate in this discussion, people like to know what scientists think about this. And then there is the final point in astrobiology. It is a little bit the same as the water, finding water on Mars. Just recently, there was so many news comings. Everybody was claiming every day that they found now first time water in the Mars. They found it on the coast, they found it deep underneath, they found the signs of it. It was all found so many times, and people were just reading these news and these things, and they started to even ring to me and ask that, what has happened? Who really found it? Is it found? Is the liquid water? No, there isn't, but there has been many articles and many programs about it. And astrobiology had, because of the biology part again, the same problem. You read or listen to the program or read an article, and all you see is that again there is light, somebody is looking for light, and you don't see the difference between the articles. So you have to very heavily highlight what is new, what is really now new in this thing, what are you telling to them, or is it the same thing again and again and again. So you can of course continue, soon there is a lunchtime, but you can continue to discuss about that. Especially I would love to see these conferences for reporters and conferences for teachers. That would be great. So talk about it and find out some method to organize this. Thank you. Yeah, there is some time to talk if somebody else comes.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us more about this, what you think should be done regarding reporters. I mean, the conference may be a little bit over the top, perhaps, because the conference suggests a bigger kind of thing. I mean, even this circle would have thought bigger, I would think. Or do you think this is what one needs?
I believe in personal relationships.
Yes.
So if I have any questions, I always go to the same scientist. So I have network.
Right.
And in this kind of conference situation, you would learn to know the scientists who are there. So you would spend 1 day or 2 days together, and that is one thing why the conference would be, in my opinion.
So you would get to know the different reporters, you mean?
No, different scientists. Because there would be somebody talking to you, wouldn't there? Scientists. And they would be there, and next time when you have astrobiology question, you email them. And ask them, oh, I was in your report, but I don't quite understand that, why don't you tell me? So at the same time, you learn more, but you also get contacts.
But didn't you say a conference for reporters?
No, but I mean conference organized by scientists. A conference organized
by... the reporters do? How do you get the reporters?
They listen. It's like a summer school for students. The same business, but the students are scientists. And you, of course, take the level to the newspaper level.
Don't you have that? I mean, we have in Germany that all the science journalists are somehow down. And they sometimes make a press conference. One of these journalists makes a press conference, invites different scientists, and invites also his colleagues for this topic. And this is something where the initiative comes from the journalists, because they think this is now a topic of interest for their public. And they invite other different scientists. It's only 1 day meeting. And so the journalists, so it comes from the journalists, science journalists and the scientists with their talk are available for discussion for one day. So it could be something together with an organization, but I think to know which journalists and reporters are the right ones, you need to have something of cooperation between the scientific group and journalists. It could be very important.
That sounds good. We have small countries in Nordic countries. In this country, you have maybe 4 full-time science reporters. I'm one of them. So others are just part-timers, so we certainly know everybody. That's no problem. But we cannot organize a business for 4 people, so if it would be a Nordic cooperation, if it has so much, that would be a point. But that sounds excellent.
Oh, I see now. So people like you, but then from the different countries. So we would get the other people from Finland plus and who, and then we have a few from Denmark, of course, and Norway, and so forth. Iceland. Was the science report in Iceland, is that one? What?
Not really.
No.
And we have to work very, very strongly on and doing the so many conferences to prevent them from having any nonsense.
Oh, this is the way to prevent it.
We found out the way to go is to, when they contact you, to talk with them and prepare them and tell them which questions they should ask the scientists. Because otherwise they will just ask these stupid questions about the differences in Mars.
I don't think that it's just a big question to ask if there is 3 men, you can answer that no, there isn't. Because if it bothers people, of course, they want to know that. But of course, then you can proceed to the next question. But it is, of course, always a collision of 2 cultures when reporters
It's really a problem when a reporter who knows nothing about the subject, if he learns that there is an important conference in the environment, then he is, or she calls you up and wants to know everything about this and has to write a story within a couple of hours. How can you expect something good to come out of that? Such a person who talks to the scientist who has been spending decades working on some problem, knows everything about it, and a reporter comes who wants to know everything in 2 hours, so that's too late.
you know there is one big difference that the scientist is expected to know everything or much more or deep about the thing. But this journalist, it's actually the better the less he knows beforehand, because then you just get a fast general picture. And of course, scientists are nowadays extremely helpful, and they even proofread your articles. But it is different thing. The reporter is not even trying to tell what you are trying to tell. This is the education part. We don't need to say everything in one thing. We say only one little thing.
But the thing is that bioeconomy, astrobiology, or whatever it was, will test this special problem that is the popular culture, the Hollywood culture for space aliens and stuff like that. So people's minds are sort of fixed on this in advance. Independence Day and these English aliens coming to gobble us up and things like that.
Yeah, but that's great starting point. That makes it a great article, but we start about something what they all are interested in.
This is something that astrobiology has huge task to work on to sort of correct all these species.
Yeah, that's education. That's education.
Okay, but it's a different situation when you are doing radio or television. Because when the reporters start asking you silly questions, you use all the time to remove all the silliness and you never get to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that reporters should do it a different way, that they should actually engage at least 2 scientists. One they talk the subject through with so they become slightly educated, and then one they interview. I mean, because they have this fetish about the immediate answer. They want to have the direct experience. So I mean, I've been on television where I've been definitely told we should not prepare, I should not know the questions, because then they don't get my immediate reaction.
Yeah,
so they start asking how does it sound in space. which is in any way a silly question. I mean, because sound requires air, so there's no sound in space. And when I explained that and the reporter never understood it, then the time has gone. The television camera switches to another thing, and I didn't get to tell Uranus.
But you have to then educate yourself to feel like politicians. You don't care what they're asking, you say what you have beforehand, and that can really help sometimes. Think what you want to say to them and say that, and don't say anything else. Then you can be sure that they use that.
Yeah, it doesn't make for a good relationship.
There is an interesting, first of all, your idea with this, in a meeting with all the Nordic science reporters, I think that's a great idea. We should really do that. There is a related issue which I've seen at the KITP, the Kauge Institute for Theoretical Physics in Santa Barbara, where they have, they are having, it's in a sense a little bit like Nordita, but much bigger. They are running programs, and they have lots of postdocs and people around. But among the different people that they hired, they also hired actually one reporter for a period of 9 months. So that's quite something, because you have a reporter in the institute doing his or her work for a period of 9 months, which is a long period. So they are doing their usual work, but they're interacting with the scientists on a daily basis. So they get to know how they think, how they work, and how the whole thing is going. But on the other hand, the scientists also all learn how to talk to this kind of reporter. I think they hired a very good person, which maybe the time is now over, and they hired a new person perhaps again. I think she was a science writer for Nature or something, so she was a high-profile person. I may confuse the case here, but something like that.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. Everybody should have ex-journalist every institute.
Well, we are reduced to having a fit scientist. That's all what we can bear.
Yeah, it's a question of budget.
No, but there's a fundamental difference between the written information and the media.
There is, that's right. But
I mean, the science journalists that you can point to are all writing. I don't know, do you have in Finland?
Yeah, we have radio journalists as well, and also TV science journalists.
Okay, that's none in Denmark. There's nobody taking care of science in the television.
Yeah, but then you have to start to do your own program now when there are so many channels. So you can stick it there.
Let's just compare them with the other countries. How is that possible? In principle, then Denmark should. Somebody in Denmark should feel ashamed of the absence of. Somebody at the television should feel ashamed of their ignorance. But I think they can only feel ashamed if they actually see the difference. If they see, wow, in Finland they have maybe 5 such people, and in Denmark they have 0. If they see a table, and in Sweden they have so many, and Denmark is the only country among, and it is even worse than, say, for example, very small countries, another much smaller country.
It can also be a scientist. I know we have this religion program Alpha Centauri, which Alan Leshkoff is an astrophysicist in Dublin, and he makes a very nice program by himself.
Oh, okay.
And didn't Anya do also some kind of TV program? Wasn't it so? Do you want to say something crazy about your...
Well, I would like to throw in just a few words on the communication in education.
I'm finished. Just remember us, we are not so bad as our reputation.
Yes, just to continue on this line of the communication problems, or probably attitude problem, this is relevant in the same line as you were talking here on the public relations shifts in communication and maybe establishment of astrobiology, but I think this also applies for the world of science even and teaching certainly. So. Okay, so we all here know that the astrobiology is a really interesting and fruitful approach for science to approach fundamental questions of natural sciences. But this is not even so commonly shared even in academia, at least in Finland, or in a small country which is not traditionally participating in these big space programs. Probably Finland did not really realize the power and the seriousness and significance of the space research, except on a few individual persons' levels, but not in a in the national research policy probably, for instance. And there is, well, at least even most people are very like elsewhere in the universe, or at least planetary system, there is still this problem. But maybe in my public, not so much in academia, but it exists there. But then quite a lot in the university, I kind of run into this attitude that people find that these kind of very fundamental questions are like searching for the impossible, and for like impossible for funding and impossible for results, and for that reason not worthwhile to even consider. And probably like at least the status quo at the time being, only very practical things are funded. Astrobiology is getting funded in it is practically applicable like extremophiles or biotechnology applying. Extremophiles seem to be applicable, but I don't know how much of other astrobiology is really applicable now, except for the instrument development and instrumentation. Also, there is this reluctance for interdisciplinarity. People quite clearly seem to be afraid of starting to talk with other disciplines. They just think that they don't really even understand anything. And of course, this now has at least two phases, which is that we need to kind of try to adjust the communication so that non-experts can understand. Because people in the other field of science are non-experts, and we need to talk in a way that non-experts understand what we are saying. But also there is this reluctance for this kind of a interdisciplinarity, at least what I feel in the faculty, in the university, is that people tend to think that if we teach students a little bit of everything, then they don't really get experts in anything, and they get just this kind of like generalists which have kind of two broad views of life in general, and they don't really get expertise in anything. And I think people should realize, I'm just not telling the problems, but I'm feeling and finding quite strongly in our university at this time, is that people should realize that in astrobiology we are, or people actually are working with very well-defined problems and trying to find just certain details which are related to the very fundamental questions. so that we are not yet trying to solve the life and truth and everything in one question, but just little pieces, and then try to see the connections and the relevance of the details to each other. Okay, so there is a lot of kind of reluctance on approving or accepting astrobiology as a science. We have been teaching astrobiology now for 2 times, like a general course, lecture, seminar. Students like it very well. I think it would be great to get accepted as a part of established curriculum as a teaching program, maybe on a bachelor's level at this point. And this is something would be could get accomplished because there are individual persons who could teach these particular courses at least. But now it is even a question at the university of whether, but they would gladly allow this happen on voluntary basis. Like people do it on their own time, but then actually people don't want to put so much time and effort on voluntary basis. It should be at least part of the working hours. So in middle countries we are kind of like just struggling for having astrobiology accepted as a science. So first I need to do the ongoing discussion. We had already some discussion about that, and I am sometimes approached by students who email, and they ask where can I study astrobiology, and I normally say if you have a basic training in biology or in chemistry or in astronomy or physics, then you can get a postgraduate or as a graduate student then try to do astrobiology. But I think it would be very good if you have some curriculum for astrobiology in Europe. I know that the University of Washington, Seattle has a program. I think also Pennsylvania has a program, career curriculum in astrobiology. And I think through ERNA we could even have a kind of connection between the different. Maybe there are more places in Europe where they teach astrobiology, so that through the ERNA network we can combine these different efforts. I mean, it would also be politically important to tell your university that there are these courses already established there and there and there. And on the other hand, you can also exchange material. And ESA has actually, the ESA webpage was planned to be an Exobiology Virtual Institute, Astrobiology Virtual Institute, where they plan to have, and they have all the facilities for lectures which can be given at ESA ESTEC, recorded and then put on the web. So we could really use it in ERNA to have at least in English, a real teaching course available on the ERNA website or something like that. I think it would be needs a lot of efforts. I don't know it. There's no money yet, but maybe ESA has even some money for it. Because they have established this and they say, here you have the platform, now use it. So we somehow have to use it. ESA does not provide also the scientific input that has to come from us.
Okay, but maybe it's time to go to the lunch now and we can continue discussing. Oh, Harry wants to do something.
I have just a few thoughts for people. First of all, I missed one thing about ERNA, is that you can also join ERNA as a private member. And I think the yearly fee was 25 euros. And it has the same procedure that 2 present members have to kind of recommend. And then the meeting that's coming in 2005, not the one that's coming now in life and streaming environments, but the following one. We have been asked to come up with good themes for that meeting. So when you row the boat, think about these good themes, and then we can discuss them more, say, at the sauna in the evening. And I'll bring these ideas to Andrew Grafus.
Okay. Before we go for lunch, because we will not be, or many of you may not be coming back here, let me tell you that this room will be open tomorrow morning as well, as far as I'm aware of, and at least I will try to be here, and everybody else who is here still is welcome to come here, either sit and work on the computers or discuss with other people. And if you're lucky, we'll also have coffee around. Okay, perhaps otherwise we will make sure we get something to drink. And so the meeting will in an informal way continue tomorrow morning. So the one idea, of course, is people who want to do collaborations or have discussions with other people, then that would be an excellent opportunity. There's web connections, you can look up web pages, if you don't know certain things, you just check it out on the web, of course, and you have the connection. So hopefully this is tomorrow day. My own flight, I think, is that our flight is in the late afternoon, so we'll be here.